okay. I come out okay. Wait, came out okay. Although I've been plagued, yeah, I still come out okay. Still come out okay, yeah. It's too much. I can't trust again. Fall in love. I don't know if it's the drugs or my lens. I can't see where I'm going. Take my hand. It's too much. I can't trust again. Fall in love. I don't know if it's the drugs or my lens.
Human rights, China? I call it human wrongs. Comedy. Sundays on TNT.
What's up, everybody? Welcome as we talk about this very, very controversial, divisive, whatever you want to call it, new Disney Plus Star Wars show, The Acolyte. I'm joined here by my guest and friend, RJ. Resonant Justice, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. It's been a eventful week.
It has been
non-stop roller coaster of a week for reasons beyond entertainment, but
it has been. America may have a new auntie soon.
You call that human rights, China? I call it human wrongs.
I'm just going to use that as much as I possibly can.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been a crazy week, and I don't know what's more divisive, American politics or Star Wars.
Star Wars. It's
They're
so
kind of
great.
one of the same now.
It's so great. Between that, DC, all the fandoms, it's just, there's a lot.
I think after this show, though, Star Wars is probably the most divisive IP in modern Hollywood history.
I think it always has been
comparable to Star Wars.
I think it always has been. I mean, you go back and you look at the videos of when the prequels, were premiering, right? And people were not happy with the Red Letter Media did the infamous, Phantom Menace review.
I argue that video, the Plinkett review of Phantom Menace, is probably one of the most culturally significant internet videos ever made.
Absolutely, yeah, I would agree.
I think
so.
You look at Angry Video Game Nerd and Mr. Plinkett, like that review specifically, like that kind of changed internet and just cultural zeitgeist a little bit,
It definitely did. It definitely did a bit. And I mean, like I said, especially since, the prequels and George, came back to it and all these other things, and he decided not to, canonize any of the EU or Legends and all this. There's always been it's always been very divisive, and Star Wars means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. That's what's so interesting about it.
Like Star Trek was pretty divisive. Like I know Trekkies can be pretty hard-headed about.
They were They were divisive, they were divisive in kind of a different way. I mean, yes, I think with Star Wars now, especially, you have that crowd that is like, oh, they're doing woke stuff and all that. But a lot of them, I think a lot of them are just not happy with the story, with the writing, with, all these other
And
things.
really,
Star Wars,
you can really pinpoint it to 2017 with the
you
last
sure
Jedi.
can, RJ.
Because
I was
honestly,
just
like I'm not
about to bring that up.
Star Wars. I feel like culturally there was a shift with that movie. Like
Um,
post pre Last Jedi, post Last Jedi. Two very different times when it came to internet and movie discussions. In my opinion, at least. I feel
well,
like,
the prequels were still pretty heavily discussed in a love or hate relationship manner. You either loved them or you hate them. You had a lot of older Star Wars fans that really hated them, younger Star Wars fans that grew up with them, our generation, and all that type of stuff that enjoy them but see the flaws in it. The Last Jedi, for me, okay, so what the Last Jedi for me was it did something that Star Wars doesn't do a lot. Like, there is a deepness to Star Wars, right? But it only goes so deep. It's surface level deep, okay? The father-son relationship, the chosen one, the prophecy, all these types of things, redemption, good and the bad, balance, right? All pretty, so, war and period. You definitely have things like Star Trek and Dune and other sci-fis that take those same things and go far deeper into the conspiracies, this and that and all that. For me, The Last Jedi became that movie in that moment in Star Wars where they tried to make it deeper. And it worked for me. I really enjoyed it. They went, deep with this flawed figure of Luke Skywalker, and that's the other thing.
I think
This is
my
something
thing
that's
with
always been, which is real good.
Yeah.
This is something that's always been a problem with Star Wars is you have fans that expect certain things. So people went into Last Jedi expecting Luke Skywalker to pull,
But there's also the speculation with Snoke and Rey's heritage. Like that
sure,
movie,
yeah,
Force Awakens set up the mystery box of all the questions. So it's like, okay, now we're gonna get the answers.
right.
I think me with the Last Jedi, I think it, and somewhat it ties into Acolyte a little bit too, where it's
Don't make me bring Enosh on here, RJ.
no,
We'll
no, no.
tag team you.
I don't hate the Last Jedi. I just think it's a very flawed film, and the reason I say that is it has great ideas, tremendous ideas, and I think when it nails certain things, it nails them very well. But the issue with that movie comes down to execution, and what I mean by that is two things. Actually, three things. First off, all the stuff with Rey and Kylo on what's the name of the planet? Actu? Is that the name of it? I don't even remember the name of the planet. But all the stuff with Rey, Kylo, and Luke, I think is great. I think it's very interesting, telling. I think it challenges the character of Luke Skywalker. I think there's some interesting things with it. The stuff with Poe and what was the name of that lady again?
What do you got?
Laura
Dern? Her character.
Yeah,
what do you got against her?
Well,
one of the greatest sacrifices in Star Wars.
That what I'm saying is like the subplots of the movie drag the movie down. I think the Finn storyline not very well handled. I think Canto Bight, that whole sequence was a waste of time. I
give you that. It's a weakest point.
Movie. Yeah, it's the low point of the movie. And sadly, I just think that subplot with Rose and all those characters just doesn't work. It's like there's a good chunk of this movie that's great, but then you got all this other stuff inside of it that's kind of like and there's just moments in there just like why you rob Finn of his sacrifice. It's like, okay, I kind of get that. You have like cringy Star Wars dialogue with Rose in that moment. It's like, okay, all right. But then I think the biggest issue that movie had, and this is a creative decision I think that did haunt them a little bit, it's not Rian Johnson's fault per se. I just think that should have been. So when The Last Jedi was coming out, Carrie Fisher had already passed away, right? She died in December 2016. Right. At that moment, knowing what The Last Jedi was setting up for its finale, right? With Luke Skywalker sacrifices himself and dies. He dies doing the Force projection, and he passes away and becomes one with the Force. and still having Carrie Princess Leia alive put them in a very precarious situation, right?
Sure.
And I wish that they had just not killed Luke Skywalker off in that movie, because I feel like that was a hindrance for the story. But it's a tough position to be in too, because do you ask Rian Johnson to sacrifice his vision for the film, or do you look out for the franchise? Right? It's a tough place to be in.
But that's the thing. I think we were getting to that point. Now Disney they're stuck in their own head, in my opinion. They're kind of like, because we needed to move on from, in my opinion, we needed to move on from Luke Skywalker. We need to move on just from that era and stuff. He goes down.
Luke alive, though, it would have made Episode 9 stronger as a story, because I've said this many a times. I think The Rise of Skywalker is one of the most cowardly films.
It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Ever.
But that's also on JJ for not picking up. I mean, the end of Last Jedi is he ignites the spark in the people to get the rebellion going again, to get them on their feet.
He's going to get.
And we get to Rise of Skywalker. Everybody's still separated. Nothing's happened, and you're like, what? What was? That's what kind of makes The Last Jedi not as great. Is Rise of Skywalker doesn't acknowledge that sacrifice whatsoever.
Well, that's why for me the sequel trilogy is a complete wash, because The Force Awakens sets stuff up that The Last Jedi chooses to either not necessarily ignore, but give purposely unsatisfying answers to. Sure. And then The Rise of Skywalker looks at The Last Jedi and says, you know what? Throw all that out. Let's just go in a totally new story, new direction. It's like, as a whole cohesive narrative, it just doesn't work. And I think it's really poor. And like I said, I think The Rise of Skywalker, I mean, I don't know what it was like for you watching that movie, but like watching that movie depressed me. Like I was actually depressed watching it, because like
it was disappointing. Well, actually, to be honest, the first hour for me was actually jarring. I was very much like, this is a lot. What is happening?
Opening scene with Kylo Ren finding Palpatine. It's like, okay, hold on, what's going on? He's alive, and there's like these scientists experimenting on him to keep him alive. There's Snokes in jars. Like, what the hell?
Right.
They throw a lot at you in the first opening scene, and then from there on, it's just like more and more stuff gets thrown at you. And it's just, to me, watching that movie, I was just genuinely depressed, because this was meant to be the grand finale of Star Wars, the Skywalker saga. And that's how you choose to end it. And I felt just so underwhelmed, so sad watching it. And like the movie's obsessed with fan service, to the point where it's a detriment. Like, hey, wouldn't it be funny if Chewie got a medal because he didn't get one in Episode 4? So let's do that full circle moment. It's like an Easter egg. It's like, it's stuff like that just annoys me. Or big story moments like Lando having a daughter and she's missing, and you don't find out about that in the movie. It's something you have to read up about. I think her name was Jaina. When she talks to Lando, that was her finding out, oh my God, that's my dad. It's like, well, that could have been a cool emotional hook to his character, but we don't know that unless you read the book.
Yeah, that one for me, Rise of Skywalker, that's when people say, "Oh, Last Jedi had some swings and misses." Like Rise of Skywalker had the swings and misses for me.
So for me, like post Rise of Skywalker, I was just feeling so disillusioned with Star Wars. But thank God, Mandalorian was airing around the same time, so I had that to look back on. And just overall with the Star Wars shows, I've enjoyed most of them, while making some concessions that some of them are definitely flawed. I think the Mando is probably the best show overall, although season 3 had some issues.
I'd say Andor took.
Okay, my bad.
Took Mando as the best Star Wars.
So I would say, Andor I thought was tremendous, really well done, and that was not a show.
Andor for me, was again Last Jedi. You're elevating Star Wars. You're making it deeper and making us think more than the usual Star Wars story does.
Yeah, I was trying to be a different kind of show, which I appreciated. So for me, the highlights were Mandalorian, Andor, Book of Boba Fett. I don't think it's a dumpster fire like other people do, but it is really flawed. Like, really
It's very
flawed.
flawed. I mean, but even that has a saving grace with the Luke episode for me.
Yeah,
and
the
stuff,
Mando, like,
and the Mando team up
episode
at the end and
finale are
stuff.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Mando episode and the finale are great. First couple episodes are good. It's just the middle. The middle's really bad. Yeah. Ahsoka. I mean, I don't know how you felt about Ahsoka. I liked Ahsoka for the most
I
part.
liked it. Yeah.
That show was really carried by Ray Stevenson, though. Like,
Well,
his character, the villains of that show is what elevated that show for me.
this is the thing. The only show that is executed that all of these shows are obviously trying to set up a bigger story. Ahsoka has a bigger story going into season 2.
The Mando
setting up for a movie. Mando's a bigger story. Mando did a good job first 2 seasons executing that story, right? And getting, moving us. Season 3 lagged a bit. Book of Boba Fett didn't really do much for us besides tell us how Mando and Grogu reunite. Ahsoka, I hope season 2 is better because, again, like I said, they're telling a bigger story there. That's hopefully
I think Ahsoka's
to the movie.
Yeah, and Ahsoka's setting up some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, big stuff, big stuff. And this is setting up interesting stuff too. A lot of lore stuff in this as well. That I mean, I like the ideas of and stuff. And
yeah. Oh, forgot to mention Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan
show I have a love-hate relationship with because parts of that show I absolutely love.
I agree.
But some stuff in that show annoys the crap out of me.
Yes.
A lot of the supporting characters really didn't need to be there. Like, I don't even remember half of them.
Bro, he hid Leia in the middle of the Empire looking like a hump.
Yeah.
There's
I'll be honest. Stuff with baby Leia was a little cringe. I gotta be honest.
Some things but some things were really nice too. I mean, that's the thing. There for me, none of the Star Wars shows have been like atrocious or the worst thing ever, or like it ruins the universe or all these other things.
Yeah, I mean,
I love this universe.
Really bad was like the Book of Boba Fett episode with like the Vespa.
Yeah,
that was bad.
That got weak. That was weak. That was a weak show. I agree. But even then, there's things to if you're a Star Wars fan, if you enjoy this universe, there's things to enjoy about it and things to, like I said, the Luke episode, all these other things. So like none of these shows have been so horrible that's like I can't watch Star Wars anymore. Like I love this universe, and I think you're not always going to get the greatest stuff and all, but at least I'm not getting I'm not getting Secret Invasion type stuff from
Now that was a show. I know we're not talking about Marvel, but Secret Invasion was the one Disney Plus show I was struggling to watch week to week. That show was a slog to get through. The first episode of that show was okay, but then after that, it was like, uh-oh. I hope it gets better. Well, I hope it gets better. Oh no, we're not getting. And then you get the finale. It's like, what did I just watch? That finale is like one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life.
The whole show, dude, for me was just it was shockingly horrendous.
Yeah. That was Marvel Studios' Inhumans moment, where it's just like,
I didn't think they could get worse after She-Hulk, and they did. They got worse.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about. I mean, that different. I don't hate She-Hulk either, but yeah, that show is flawed too. But I like aspects of it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the power of one, the power of two, the power of many, the Acolyte,
the Wokalite.
The Wokalite, yeah. What are your initial thoughts? What did you think of the Acolyte?
So, for context, going into this, when they announced this show, I think it was either at the Disney Investors thing a few years ago, or some Star Wars celebration. Remember when they first announced this? They said this is going to be a show about exploring the Sith, and I'm like, I am down for that. You're telling me it's going to take place thousands of years ago. It's going to be 100 years before the Phantom Menace. You're going to explore the origins of the Sith.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. This is one of the shows I was looking forward to the most out of what they had announced. I liked some of the actors involved. I liked Daphne Keane. I liked the Lee Jung-jae from Squid Game. I thought, that's pretty cool. Carrie Ann Moss. Like they got a solid cast, and I liked the idea of doing more martial arts from what they were describing. Everything on paper sounded cool to me, right?
Yeah.
The trailer came out, and I'm like, okay, this looks okay. This looks interesting. for me, I wanted to like this show. I really did. But I will be honest, this show consistently disappointed me, and I have to say I walked away not really enjoying myself very much with this. I think it did get better as it went along, but sadly for me, I only truly liked 2 out of the 8 episodes, and that's a problem. But we'll get into it more. But in a broad sense, I would just say I wanted to really like this show, but I walked away being very disappointed with it.
Interesting. I mean, I would say I wasn't that disappointed. I mean, again, I didn't think it was the worst thing ever. There are some incredibly cringe moments and stuff. Like I said, we'll get into that.
Yeah, I think
my initial thought was that, look, I like the idea of what they're setting up, to be honest. I like this whole thing of, it kind of starts early on, these 100 years before, where this, people in the Senate and all these things go, there's this outlook on the Jedi of you're a cult, you're a religion that's trying to control things that you can't control and all these other things. And it's the seeds, it's the start of the downfall of the Jedi. We know, from prequels and stuff,
and this
fell because of their own hubris.
Yeah, this has been the tagline for this show for me. Like, if I had like a 1-sentence summary, great ideas, but poor execution.
Yeah, I agree. And now, I think this was the worst part for me is you advertise this as like a murder mystery, Jedi show, which, I like the concept and stuff. You did a horrible job at making this a murder mystery. I knew exactly who it was from the start. I knew what was going on. I figured everything out very, very quickly, and all of that was just
and at a certain point
to see how it played out.
Yeah, and the show stopped being a mystery for the most part, except for one question about what happened on that planet, which was super obvious what happened.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so that's the thing. It became like you didn't even do a good job of being what you were supposed to be, which was this murder mystery show. But you did set yourself up, for some things. I think, get some better writers and some other stuff. But yeah, let's talk. I mean, for me, probably the biggest issue with it is the dialogue and the writing. The dialogue is all over the place. It goes from
I think
trying to be serious that it's just.
Yeah, for me, the show started falling apart with episode 3, the flashback episode.
Yeah.
That for me was when I was like, oh no, because I hate saying this because I hate being that guy because I don't want to pick on child actors, but the way that episode was directed, and I think that's mainly the issue with that episode, is the director and how it was directed. The way the actors were directed, the child actresses, they were not directed very well, and I don't think they got a very good performance out of either of them because they dragged a lot of the scenes down. Yeah. Like, there's I'll never get over this. There's the moment where I think it's May is getting angry at Osha for wanting to go leave with the Jedi, and she's like, you know what? I'm going to kill you. And then she locks her up and tries to burn the place down. It's like, what? Right. Like, what is this dialogue? Like, really? It's not like. It's just like I get what they're going for, but like again, the direction is so poor that it just comes across as like unbelievably like dude, what the hell is this? Like,
yeah, the direction and the execution. I agree. I mean that too. You have obviously the what would now be known as the infamous power of many scene.
My God, that was so bad.
I mean,
I legit was because I watched the show every week with my dad and my brother, and I was just looking at them like, what the fuck are we watching? Like, what is this?
You could have made that like a really creepy like cult ritual scene and stuff, and it was just so cringe and so just like this literally feels like a scene brought out of the prequels that George Lucas wrote himself.
Back in the prequels, I don't think would go that far. I mean, this is like special edition Star Wars. Like, this is like Return of the Jedi, the new dance club scene,
Well, and the thing that's interesting too is they are testing out bringing a lot of new lore and EU stuff into canon.
Yeah.
And that's not always going to translate as, as you want it and stuff. So, like, maybe they saw that in a book or something and was like, oh, that's cool and creepy and all that.
Star Wars had witches before. You've had the Night Sisters.
Oh yeah.
Like witches in Star Wars are nothing new.
No.
I think it's just the way that coven was presented and the way that the acting was and the way their characters operated. It's just like what the hell. But actually, I got to go even further back. Like, let's just start off with episode 1. So we open with the assassin being sent after the Jedi.
Right.
And it's May versus Carrie Ann Moss's Indara, I think her name is.
Yeah.
And I had seen the fight scene when I went to go see episode 1 on the big screen because they showed the first couple minutes of the show.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, this action's really cool. Awesome. And then it opens, and then Carrie Ann Moss is killed. And it's like, oh, okay. You're killing off one of the big name actors on the show in the first 5 minutes. Okay.
Right.
I have no clue who she is. I have no clue what her character is. I'm not sure what to feel about this. But I'm like, okay, you want to go for shock value? Totally understandable. Let's see where this goes. And then, again, you get introduced to the best character on the show, in my opinion, Soul. Like, from the get-go, I like Soul.
Definitely the most interesting character.
Yes. He was definitely the most interesting character from the jump for me. Osha and May, I'm just like, I mean,
yeah.
I think my biggest issue with the show overall, I never connected with Osha and May as characters. I never emotionally connected with them. I never got behind them as characters. I just never connected with them, and they are so constant through the narrative because they are the main characters. So when I don't emotionally connect with the main characters, it's very hard to invest in the show. And I think that's one of the biggest issues I have with this show overall is the characters.
Yeah.
The characters are not gripping, and they are not interesting, and they're not developed.
Well, I wouldn't even say that. They are interesting characters, like, because that's the thing. All the stuff is there. They give you everything that you should have to make you emotionally attached to the character. It's the execution, it's the acting, it's the editing, it's all these other things that build in. Because you have twins, you have one girl that doesn't want to be what is being forced on her, wants to make a choice of her own, go her own way, be Jedi, all this. You have another one that's coming out of revenge, thinks that these Jedi, manipulate. Like, all this stuff is there, for you to care about these characters. It's just so poorly executed and done in a way where it's laughable.
I think some characters, there is enough presented to where you are going to find them interesting. But for some characters, they are so woefully underdeveloped that when they're supposed to be big emotional moments, it doesn't resonate. Right. Biggest example is Yord and Jeki. So these are two Jedi that were introduced to in the first episode, right? And they're built up across the first 5 episodes. Right. When we get to what happens in episode 5 with their deaths, I'm like, okay, again, you're going for shock value. Like, oh my God, the Sith guy just killed 2 major supporting characters in 1 episode, right?
Right.
But the thing is, though, why should I, as an audience member, care? Because who is Yord outside of the very generic, he's a guy who likes to stick by the rules and follow the Jedi Order code?
Yeah.
Like, who is he as a person? Who is he as a Jedi? I never find that out.
In fact, he's kind of an asshole throughout the show. So.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Who is Jeki behind? Oh, Jeki's nice, and she likes Osha. She's good friends with Osha. Who is she as a person? Who is she as a Jedi? Like, who is she as a character? I don't know. Yeah. So, like, am I emotionally supposed to get behind them and feel bad when they die? I mean, I only feel bad because it's like, oh, they're Jedi and they were just murdered.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's a very generic feeling, though. Like,
well, it's somebody made it cool. It was like, oh, they're gonna pull an Andor and kill off everybody, and it's like, well, they did kill off everybody, but it's not like Andor where you're emotionally attached to these characters. You feel bad, you're sad they're all gonna die and stuff, and you're like, damn, this is
and like that's
like,
Rogue One. Everybody dies in Rogue One, right. And they had way less screen time. But I felt more for Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor and those
the 2 Asian dudes.
Like Donnie Yen's character, Chi-Woot, I think his name was. I felt more for their deaths because I think just the way it was presented, their characters were presented, it was just a lot stronger. especially in the case of Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor. Like, you find out a lot about those characters, and like their sacrifice means something. There's weight to it, and I think that's what they were trying to go for with Yord and Jeki. But just like, I don't know who you are. Like, who are you as a person?
Yeah.
The show gives me nothing to go off of beyond the quest that they're on. There's not enough time given to explore Yord as a person. There's not enough time to explore Jeki outside of that one conversation she has with Osha. And she has like that another conversation, I think, with Saul. So if anyone, Jeki kind of gets a little more to go off of, but it's just very generic things like she's a kind person. She's supportive of Osha. She wants Osha to succeed. It's like, that's not enough to go off of to emotionally invest in,
Exactly.
and that's what I mean. Like, some of the emotional stuff for that reason fell flat for me. But one of the shining things I will say again, I mean, the action episode 5 is tremendous. I can't knock that. The action sequences of the show,
The
when
action throughout the show, when there is action, is decent.
yeah, and it's just, I don't know. Again, it's just one of those cases where it's just like, I want to be invested with this show, but I find myself having my interest be hindered.
Right.
Because again, like, I'm trying to remember even everything that happens. I mean, because they did episode 3 was the big flashback episode, and that was honestly one of the worst episodes of the show, in my opinion. I
4
thought,
was the big nothing episode where it ends with them encountering the stranger.
yeah, where episode 4 is literally just walking through the woods for 20 minutes, and oh, look, the Wookiee's dead. You thought you were going to get a Wookiee fight? Nah, he's dead. He died off screen. I mean, again, episode 5 is great. I think that's where the show really picks up a little bit. But at that point, it just gets predictable too. It's like, oh, here we go. Osha's with the bad guy. May's doing her own thing. It's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like, I felt it was so telegraphed that they were going to switch allegiances. Like,
Yeah,
that
did,
but
it also just felt
good.
so weird too, because it was like it didn't really make any sense that she was like, okay, you're gonna go from, like this guy just murdered all your quote unquote friends or people that have been helping you and stuff, and now you're gonna join him. It's just that was very out of nowhere.
Yeah, even episode 4 talking about look at May. Yeah, look at May in episode 4, where it's all like, oh, I'm gonna turn myself in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, never mind. The Jedi are gonna arrest me. I'm gonna fight back and try to kill them. It's like, what?
Yeah, it's very weird decision making. I knew, of course, I think a lot of us knew something was up with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, like, it was super
big surprise.
Yeah, super telegraphed. The only other person some people thought it was going to be was the one of the not the mom with the horns. People thought it might have been her, but I'm like, nah, it's Khmer. I knew right away that there's something up with Khmer, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's a pretty obvious reveal, but whatever, it's fine. I mean, he's a cool character. He's cool. His design's cool. The actor, I think, does a decent job. I mean, he's probably one of the more salvageable aspects of the show, in terms of like what I liked about it.
Yeah, there's interest in him and stuff. I mean, like I said, there was interest in a lot of these characters. I think they just weren't executed right. So his whole thing and the way that ended was just very like, what little I cared about him by the end, I was like, okay, so you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, I get that was the point. Right, I think that's what Leslie was going for. Like, oh, the most likable character in the show. He secretly has a dark past that he's not a good guy.
But again, so poorly executed.
Because again, here's the thing, and this is like, oh, I just wanted to hit myself over the head when I watched episode 7, because that was another flashback episode where we just see the exact same events from episode 3, just from a different point of view. Same director, by the way, which is probably why it's as poor as it is. But the whole inciting incident is, so Saul really wants a Padawan. Okay, why does he want a Padawan? Why does he feel it has to be Osha? Why? Right. It's never explained. Why does we forgot to mention what's his name? Tobin, what's his name? The white kid, right? The guy who grows up with the messed up hairline, who drinks the poison. Okay, why does he want to go home? Why does he want to go to Coruscant so badly? I don't know. He just doesn't like doing research missions. Isn't that what Jedi do? Like,
Yeah.
okay, that's his motivation. Okay. And this is like, again, so stupid. Because it's just like, you're trying. So, Torben feels so bad about what happened on Brendock, he wants to kill himself.
Right.
And what did he
Well,
ultimately
I don't think it's not that too. But again, they didn't explain this either. Is that whatever he saw, whatever manipulated his mind or stuff, he spent his life, focusing on not being penetrable, basically. Just
I guess that's what they were going for. I mean, maybe. I mean, that kind of makes more sense. Yeah.
yeah.
But like again, Soul though, why does he want a Padawan so badly, and why does he feel it has to be Osha? It's never
Right,
explained. Never get insight into that because he kind of acts like a creeper, with
a little bit.
A little bit, right? It's kind of like
A little bit.
The vibe they're trying to go for.
But I think also too, yeah, that's the other thing. It's just not conveyed well. He senses the resurgence. He senses all these, or whatever, like all these other things with the Force that's happening there with these kids, to where you're like, yeah, I see the creeper thing, but it's also more of like, no, we need to get a hold of these kids because we don't know what power they came from, what they're capable of, are they dangerous?
Yeah.
Better get them on the good side than all that type of thing.
Mm-hmm. And my biggest issue with that episode and the storytelling, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we all kind of figured the Jedi probably killed the witches. We kind of figured there was some kind of fight and the witches died, and most likely one of the Jedi's killed the moms, right?
Yeah.
Or at least one of the mothers. Okay. But the way it's handled, it's just so shockingly awful in terms of the execution. I think even the way it's written, I think it's an issue with the writing too. Okay.
Yeah. One of the mothers disappears.
Yeah. So yeah, the mother turns into smoke and starts enveloping. Is it May or Osha? I think it's Osha, isn't it? Or no, it's May. I think it's May. I forget which twin it was, but whichever. I think it was May. Yeah. So.
Oh yes. May. It was May.
Yeah. So Soul mistakes Osha for May, sorry, mistakes May for Osha. I get the names mixed up. Which, okay, now you're making Soul look like an idiot. It's like, oh, he called May Osha. You can't tell the difference. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
But bigger issue. The mom turns into Smoke, who looks like a monster, like a demonic monster, starts enveloping the child, and the child starts turning into dust, and Soul reacts and uses his lightsaber and stabs her.
Right.
And he's the bad guy? Like, he's seeing this child disintegrate into dust.
Right.
And the mom looks like a monster. Like, what?
Well,
he's the bad guy in this.
Yes.
And he never speaks up for himself. He never tries to say, like, hey, listen, your mom was turning into a smoke monster. I thought she was going to kill you. Like, I thought you were, like, disintegrating. Like, I don't know what was going on. I reacted because I thought you were in danger.
Yeah.
No, never defends himself. The show never addresses it like that. It's just like, oh, he tried to take away those kids. He's bad.
Yeah, I do see that. And, I mean, it's just not explained well. It's not shown well. I mean, there are moments in there that, I think are okay and stuff and interesting, like I said. But at the end of the day, it's supposed to be a mystery. There was no mystery to it. The whole thing, like you said, with the kids and the twins, the mothers, it was just messy and sloppy and poorly written. And
oh my God!
At the same time, this has been a very weird show for me because I have found myself, while not loving it, still defending it way more than I thought I would be.
I think some of the criticism is definitely done in bad faith, but I want to mention too.
Yeah.
What did you think about Venestra, the bald green lady?
I mean, she's interesting, but like not too enveloped in her character either. Like, there's not a lot there.
She's a character that came from the High Republic books,
right?
So in those books, she was really young. She's like a Padawan Jedi Knight. She had like long purple hair. And she had the purple whip lightsaber. Now she's bald and she's older, right?
Right.
I thought what they did in the finale pissed me off because I'm like, okay, so like I hate
Yoda?
I think she's a horrible character and a horrible person because I'm like, so you're basically telling me that she's a villain in my eyes. Like what Vanessa did was awful because like she literally looks at Soul and it's like, sorry, Soul, we got to blame all this on you because we don't want the Senate to investigate the Jedi. I'm
Right.
like, that's the thing a Jedi does. Like, not a good Jedi. Like, that's kind of like a very villainous thing to do.
No, it's just she's at the end of the day too. She wasn't doing it. That's the thing. You have to look at her intentions too. She was also trying to protect her friend. She was trying to protect Soul from getting in trouble and doing all these things. I mean, Soul was
No, she literally like at
abandoning
the
all
but
rules
no,
of the High
that's
Council
what
and all these other
she's not
things.
protecting Soul though in that moment because she literally goes, a rogue Jedi named Soul wanted to basically
At the end,
at
when
the
she said,
end she's like he wanted to cover up his crime,
yes,
so he killed all these Jedi. I'm like, you're gonna make Soul into a rogue, like you're gonna paint him as the villain who killed Jedi.
even
Like,
then, that's there's more story there, and then they just leave you waiting for like a season 2 or something, which is like,
yeah, and then I
no,
have questions too,
but
where it's like,
but
okay,
even then, yeah, I don't think the intentions were necessary, but yeah, it's to, she does that guy that's investigating the Jedi. While he made some really good points, I agree with that he said to her, he obviously has some ulterior motives and stuff, and so I think she has to be careful, who to trust and who to, if she senses there's something I think bigger at play here. You notice too. I think obviously, what's the stranger's name? Kamir or whatever.
Premiere, yeah.
Yeah, was her ex Padawan.
Which that was
they
pretty obvious once you saw the
yeah,
scar, yeah.
right. And stuff. So when she sees that, she senses something is very bad. So yeah, I mean, I didn't mind that part. Obviously, I'm curious what her relationship to Master Yoda is, and obviously to bypass the High Council.
Yeah, that's one ass. Okay, again, I'm not trying to be an asshole.
Is it because they're both green?
No, I'm not trying to be an asshole.
They're besties.
But I'm going to be an asshole. I am not one to typically complain about this, but have you heard of the Star Wars meme about Glup Shido?
No.
Okay, so Glup Shido is an internet term for Star Wars will basically be like, hey guys, look who's back, Glup Shido. And it'll be like a reference to like a fan favorite character. It'll be like, hey guys, like Star Wars fans get excited about a character returning in something. Like they love cameos and stuff.
Right.
I typically don't have an issue with that because I love my Glup Shidos. I love my fan service. I love my cameos. But the Yoda thing in particular kind of irked me a little bit because I'm like, this whole time, I was like, where's Yoda? Because I'm like, all this is going on. Yoda doesn't say anything. Yoda doesn't do anything. He's supposed to be around during this time. So both him and Plagueis, inherently, I don't have an issue with them being there. I just think that it was kind of just lazy fan service.
I think we're gonna see a different if Yoda does appear. This is 100 years before. We need to see a different side of Yoda. We need to see that side of Yoda.
That's the dangerous thing, though.
That was just as blinded as the rest of the Jedi.
But Austin, that's a dangerous game you play though, because Yoda wouldn't participate in a cover-up like this.
I don't think he's going to participate in the cover-up.
Well, that's my concern, though.
No, I don't think he's going to participate
cover-up scheme by Vanestra. Is he going to call her out and for what she's doing and disown her? Like, I need to see.
I don't think she's going to go up and say to him, "Hey, I just did this cover-up thing." I think her question is more of the dark side and those types of things. But
yeah, but here's the thing too. If Yoda is the supreme, like he is one of the most powerful Jedi, he can sense when Jedi are dying during Order 66. You're telling me he can't sense that all this is going on? He can't feel.
Well, okay, Order 66 is a bit different. It's a Jedi genocide. It's a literal.
But because I get out. But here's the thing too. He felt.
And again, even then, he had become closer to the Force at that point because he'd started to wake up and open his eyes that, oh, shit, all of this has been happening right under our fucking
we can go
nose.
even sooner than that, though. We can go to the prequels with Attack of the Clones.
Right.
He sensed Anakin killed the Tusken Raiders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even then he started to sensing things after Qui-Gon died, and after he realized, oh shit, Qui-Gon was right about some things, was onto some shit.
Yeah,
that's when he started to open up his eyes. Qui-Gon was the only one that was like pushing for all this.
Yeah, I just get concerned with that because to me that raises so many questions now about the whole show. I'm just like, I don't know where you're going with this.
No, I think that's fine. The Plagueis cameo, I figured it was going to happen. He's lurking among the shadows somewhere.
Just a weird placement, so he's just hiding on that planet and creeping around, like
That's kind of what I figured. I mean, yeah, he's watching over these guys. He's watching over. That's kind of his thing. He's always in the shadows, around, like hearing the conversations. He knows, all those things. So that's.
Well, let me ask you this: Do you? I think the other problem is that there's more when we talk about this show having really interesting ideas. I think the show, honestly, would have been better if it was a show about Quamir and his master, his Sith master, Plagueis.
Should have focused on
like if you would have focused the show on Quamir, instead of these twins, and he told the show from his perspective, again, the show starts. He's just something happens with him and his master. Right. He's cast out. He's on the run. He turns to a Sith master who promises him that he will find freedom with this new power. That would have been a more interesting story than what we got with these twins, in my opinion, at least. Because that's Star Wars. Padawan falling to the dark side for some reason, a master having regrets about what happened with the Padawan. Like, that would have been more interesting. Again, I think my biggest issue with this show is, once again, I just could not connect with Osha and May. I just never connected with them or bought into them as characters.
Yeah, I agree. I think the threads are there. It's interesting enough, especially with Plagueis and all these other big players involved now, to keep me back, bring me back. But you gotta, I mean, look, this show, for me, what I thought it should be, again, kind of like some Andor level writing, deepness and all that type of stuff. You're going into conspiracies here. You're going into cover-ups, mystery, all that stuff. There should be mystery. You need good writers for that type of stuff. Every mystery in this, you figure it out, and it was just about, can they make it unfold in an entertaining way? And I thought they pulled off the Kamar thing, like, okay, we all knew it was him, and yeah, he was kind of badass when he came in and stuff and floated in and all that other stuff, and but yeah, besides that, nothing was pulled off in a surprising way or in any way that I thought wouldn't happen. Like, it was very mid, for me. But there are some people out there, like this good old guy, Star Wars Theory, that certainly has his complaints.
Yeah, I will say, this is probably, it's hard to compare because Last Jedi was also pretty bad, but I feel like the online reactions of this show have been probably the worst we've seen in a while in terms of the discourse surrounding something.
Yeah.
This show was not fun to talk about at all, in my opinion, at least. The show, the conversation on this show was so toxic and just,
Yoda let the Jedi Order be destroyed. I'd say that at the very least, his incompetency for someone so powerful. 1,000 years without war. There's been no war. Yeah, he's literally sitting here complaining, if you don't understand the characters, how the Force works, Yoda now being incompetent, which again, he's been incompetent until Attack of the Clones. I mean, he was part of that council that was like, oh no, what's Sith? And the fact that, Jedi, they haven't had a war. I don't know what war he's talking about. I mean, this is the thing. This is part of that gatekeeping Star Wars fandom bullshit where it's like, look, obviously, this chick, Leslie Headland, grew up with the prequels. She was a prequel fan. It's pretty obvious by watching this show that she's got some love for the prequels. it doesn't mean that, again, Star Wars is that one of those franchises where everybody falls in love with it for different reasons. Everybody connects to different characters. Everybody sees it kind of through a different lens. It's special in that way. And so, as far as I know, she isn't breaking any canon. She hasn't done anything to reverse any of the decisions. Anakin is still special and still the chosen one. Just because some Force witches created, some being doesn't mean it was Anakin. Doesn't mean he's all of a sudden irrelevant and all these other things. But yeah, he has just been. Oh gosh, the memes are strong with him. I'm sure on a
Yeah,
rant.
I mean, I think I will admit, like, some stuff with this show I felt like was potentially lore breaking, but I think as the show went on, it explained itself a little bit better. So some stuff did get cleared up to where I don't think it's necessarily. I don't think this show ever tried to go out of its way to like crap all over the lore. I think it was trying to add to it. I
No.
will say though, I feel like this show was trying a little bit too hard to connect itself to the prequels. I kind of wish it would have done its own thing completely. Like it would have felt like a true standalone special. You know, like I feel like it could have added more in terms of like not feeling the need to connect itself so hard to the prequels. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I was hoping that this would feel separate from the Skywalker stuff, and not feel like a prelude to it. If
This
that makes
dude
sense.
in a day has 3 tweets hating on it. I mean, just and then that's the thing. He thinks he thinks he is the most all-time knowing Star Wars person.
Yeah.
Literally putting stuff out like, "Oh,
Well,
Leslie,
don't
see
you
this
know
tweet
though?
at me." Like,
Well, hold on though. Don't you know he's the biggest Star Wars channel on YouTube ever?
that's a damn shame. Well, I know a lot of people are leaving him because he's between this and Ahsoka. It's. I mean, the dude is just now crying for no reason. Like, I don't know what he wants. Like, besides views, and he's getting them. So he's over here throwing in people's faces how much money he's making based on.
Well,
So
I think he likes the video games and the animation, if I'm not mistaken. Like he likes Dave Filoni. I know that.
my passion and creativity flows endlessly where I talk about lore and theorize on different. Dude, you don't even know half of the lore. You're claiming that you know so much about lore, but then you don't even know half the. You're bitching about that dude's age. Like, what? I mean, my God.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I saw that too. Like the whole Plagueis shouldn't be here. He only be 15 years old. I'm like, you can easily retcon the age of the character where he was around for like a few more, like he's a few decades older. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, and
Because here's the
also
thing, like
there's a lot
Palpatine.
I think he said, yeah, oh, so he's 15 here. Guess what? There's a lot we still don't know about that species. The one thing we do know is that they are one of the most intelligent species in the Star Wars universe. Kind of like Grogu can't fucking speak, but is smart as hell, can use the Force, is a fucking baby, like age and time and all of these things in Star Wars is not, can be easily worked with, and it's just, it's.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it was. I did think it was weird that Kiadi Mundi was there though in one of the
Even then,
episodes.
yes, it's weird. At the same time, it's not that, like, it's not lore breaking to me. Like, that's again something where they can play with his age. It doesn't change anything.
Well, no,
It's not like they sat there in front of him and said, "Hey, we're dealing with the Sith," and he's like, "The Sith." I'm
right.
like,
Well, but this is one of the things though. I will say that we were wrong about, and the people that were upset were wrong about. The show did explain why Kiadi Mundi would be there because remember at the end of the show, Finestra covers it up to where it's like they still think that wasn't a Sith, that it was a
right,
rogue Jedi.
right,
So the show, I will, to its credit, they did try and offer an explanation to make that make sense.
right.
They won't
Yeah.
talk about that or give it credit for that, of course, but they did.
Which I knew all along. We need to see that some of these people we need to. It's obviously I guess it's been shocking for some Star Wars viewers, but yeah, we need to see this incompetence that led to the Sith, all of these things happening. I mean, the fact that until episode 2, until Qui-Gon's death and Darth Maul shows up and all these other things and makes himself publicly known, and Qui-Gon's able to get back to the High Council stuff with it, like, everybody's in their own world. The Jedi are like, we rule the world, bitch. We own this shit. Who's gonna stop us? Who's gonna come up against us? We got Empire. We are the Empire. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, overall, RJ, do you think this is the worst Star Wars thing ever?
Ever? No,
Ever.
The holiday special was worse, and I mean, there's worse Star Wars stuff out there than this. I mean, not. I think it's extremely disappointing to me, at least. I thought the show was kind of a letdown. I didn't find myself enjoying it, but I don't think it's like horrendous. Something that's like a crime against humanity. I just think it's a complete disappointment.
Would you watch a season 2?
Well, I'm gonna say the controversial opinion here. I'm not sure this is gonna get a season 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from what I heard, it got views.
Well, did you see the Nielsen numbers that came out today?
I did not know.
Okay, so Nielsen they've been reporting on the streaming stuff for a few years now. Yeah. Nielsen is the one collector of the data that's the most relied upon in the industry. They're very good at what they do. So Nielsen has their charts for, I think this is like the week of Acolyte episode 3 or 4. I think it's episode 4. It's episode 4. The show is not in the top 10 originals whatsoever. It fell out of the top 10. So the viewership has been going...
After how many weeks of being in the top 10?
It was in the top 10 originals for 1 week, and then it disappeared. So, according to Nielsen, at least, the viewership for the show has fallen.
Yeah.
So, for example, for the week that they recorded, the lowest rated original show was at 238 million minutes. So, it fell below that. So, if this show's already out of the top 10 originals on Nielsen 3 weeks in, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Because the boys and House of the Dragon are still in there, and they were on like their 3rd or 4th episodes at that point.
Yeah, so, they definitely need to.
So I think this show at this point was like, at least according to Nielsen, it looks like the show is losing viewership week to week.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if we get any announcements or anything at D23 of a follow-up.
Yeah,
or anything like that.
They may greenlight. Here's the thing: they may greenlight a second season with a smaller budget or a different creative team.
Yes, exactly.
Because they did set it up.
They set it up. I think there is intentions to move on with this story.
Or this show was picked up as a 2-season show to begin with. Like they've already committed the money to a second season.
Which I think I heard that was the case.
Yeah, if that's the case, then they have to get a second season because that's what they contracted for in the first place.
Right. Yeah, they could say like a second and final season or something like that. I mean, it is a shame.
That's what happened to Andor, because Andor, when they picked up Andor was always picked up as a 2 seasons.
2 seasons only. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so when they greenlit it, they knew going in we have to make 2 seasons.
Right. I mean, yeah, that would be. I think the best case is either that or, like you said, rehire the showrunner or some writers and stuff. Maybe get Filoni or some of these other guys more involved to like, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. Like I said, they set themselves up for some interesting stuff and storylines, obviously, with Mir and Plagueis, all these other things going on. But it's just,
I mean, the
you've got
stuff. Yeah, the Plagueis
still got a lot of work to make it
bump viewers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That will bring the viewers, but you still got to make it interesting and make it good. And so, like, we'll see. But like you said too, they set themselves up, and like this is a big story that they're telling you.
I'll give them some credit. Yoda was a puppet. He was a puppet.
He was.
I was kind of surprised. I thought they were gonna go CGI to fit with the prequel.
Look, he was puppet in The Last Jedi. He was puppet in the Phantom Menace.
I know, but like in the prequels, like they distinct in like, okay, prequel Yoda, CG. Original trilogy,
High Republic Yoda. So we can go back to puppet.
Well, here's the crazy thing though. So we see Yoda, right? If he's a puppet, are they going to do, like, if he does Jedi fight scenes, will he be a puppet in the fight scenes too? Because that'd be awesome. I want to see that. I want to see how modern Lucasfilm does a puppet fight scene.
You know
Nah,
what?
you wouldn't be into that? No.
Bring back the CGI.
No, man. If you're gonna do a
CGI.
Yoda fight scene, do it with puppets. I want to see how they do it.
No, I don't want to see him pop his little ass. Ooh, like no. I want to see some CGI movement. Yeah, Yoda fucking Count Dooku type fight. Love it. That's what I want to see. But yeah, overall, I mean, show was mid. Definitely disappointing. It was not what it said or advertised itself to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Where do you think Star Wars goes from here overall as a brand?
get through the fucking Skywalker years. Finish this. Get your Mandalorian out of the way. Get Ahsoka season 2 out of the way.
So
Get
finish
to the movie.
Yeah.
Make the movie.
So basically, you want them
Done
to
with
finish because what they're doing is they're most likely doing Heir to the Empire.
Yes,
So
wrap
get that
up.
done, get the
Wrap
crossover
up
done,
this.
and then
Yeah, wrap up
because
this
the idea
storyline.
is the Mando movie and Ahsoka season 2 will lead into Dave Filoni's
Right.
movie, and that's the
Right.
big conclusion movie.
That's what I figured, and yeah, that's what it should be. And then I don't want to hear about the Skywalker era. I mean, unfortunately, we will because of Rey, but even then, I'll give that some grace because we're moving
honestly,
forward.
yeah,
I
I'm
will
not trying
take
to be a
forward, or I will take thousands of years backwards, whichever one.
yeah, I don't want to be a jerk, but it's like I really don't think they should make a Rey movie. Like I honestly think you should go into the far, far, far past. Like go to like Old Republic.
Well, I think they're gonna do both. They're gonna because look, there are a lot of whether we like it or not, Rey is popular amongst little girls and their and that generation and stuff. Still dress up as Rey and all these other things. She's still marketable as with merchandise, which is what Star Wars always is. I mean, it's just dear God, get a good fucking writer, make her interesting, do something unique and interesting and maybe not so expected, where she's just going, oh, restart the Jedi or something like, I don't know, if you have a story there, I'm not opposed to it, but I wouldn't mind if you just kind of skipped over here. Let's go 1,000 years into the future. Let's, like,
yeah, even
I'm
go like 1,000 years in the future or 1,000 past.
Yeah, but I do think they'll probably start working on the Old Republic because that's just been fans have been craving that for decades, and
the other two movies are going to happen: the Sean Levy one or the James Mangold one about the origin Jedi.
Yeah, I think they will happen. Absolutely. Yeah.
I
think Star Wars is going to attempt to
look.
We're not attempt. They've always wanted to do this. They want to be Marvel and DC. You're going to have stories that are going to be overarching and connect whenever we're in an era or whatever. So, the Heir of the Empire stuff with the shows and blah, blah, blah. You're going to have completely separate stuff, which like the Acolyte is kind of completely separate right now. Mangold's film would be some, I don't know what the hell Sean Levy is doing, so I can't say there. But yeah, they're going to have kind of like everything going, which I think is fine as long as it's good and quality and it's expanding the universe and bringing new and fresh stuff to it that's not retropes or just all fan service or all of these different things. But it's going to be when they do that, and they've already started, there's going to be a lot of growing pains. A lot of people aren't going to be happy because now that Disney owns it, they get to pick and choose from EU and Legends what's canon and what's not, all these types of things. And people are very opinionated about some of those things. I want to see a fucking Grey Jedi on screen. I'd love to see that canonized, but I know there are a lot of diehard Star Wars fans that hate Grey Jedi, and so there's just there's going to be some growing pains over the years because they're going to be playing around of canonizing new things and all that type of stuff, and so it'll be interesting, but I think it'll be fine. Star Wars, at the end of the day, it's for kids. Kids are always going to watch it. As long as there's lightsabers and ships and battles and guns and all that stuff, it's going to be just fine. So, yeah. How about you? Where do you think it goes now?
Man, that is a tough question. I feel like the Dave Filoni stuff is starting to wind down in the next 3 to 4 years. I think once we get the Mando movie, and then we get Ahsoka season 2 and the Dave Filoni movie, where it'll seemingly be a big crossover with everything coming together.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm curious as to what the Sean Levy movie is going to be. If the Taika Waititi Star Wars movie ever happens, I don't think it is. If the James Mangold Origin of the Jedi movie happens, that would be kind of cool. I honestly think the future of Star Wars should be in its past. I really think go into the Old Republic would be the smart way to go. Go to an era where you can explore so much. I mean, because that's like pure Jedi versus Sith at war, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. It's a full. Yes.
yeah, full
I agree.
Jedi
Yes.
war.
Also, at the same time, too, like I said, there's going to be a lot of people that, because they're going to make decisions and change things and all this stuff. Honestly, you might be better off going into the future where nobody can give you shit for anything. Go 1,000 years into the future. We don't know what happens. What can we complain about? What lore is?
Yeah, if you go 1,000 years in the future, there's no comparison as to what would make sense. I mean, you can literally do whatever you want.
Right.
But here's the problem. Star Wars has to feel like Star Wars. And the problem is that I don't know if current day Lucasfilm knows how to make something feel like Star Wars unless there's something recognizable in it. That was the issue with the sequel trilogy where it's like, well, there's sequels, but we have to do familiar iconography.
Because, even if it's not somebody we know, it's a species, it's this or that, and that stuff is fine. A planet or little things like that. I think that's you want to connect it. You want to be able to see like, okay, these things have or whatever, they're significant across all of the time of Star Wars and stuff. And so, yes, I do see what you're saying because like sometimes they do go overboard and it's all fan service and you have to see like whatever that dude from the Acolyte and all this other stuff. And yeah, that's not always necessary and stuff. But I think at the end of the day, there absolutely needs to be some sort of familiarity with how this all started and stuff like that. So I think that's fine. Just do it right. Do it right and care about it and execute it well. But yeah, any final thoughts on the Acolyte,
The Wokalite?
The Wokalite? Kamala, did you have any
You
final?
call that human rights, China? I call it human wrongs. Comedy. Sundays on TNT.
Now, that's a show I would watch.
Yeah, there you go. Be more interesting this season for sure. I'd say overall, if people love this show, more power to you. I just thought it was incredibly disappointing. But hey, I think that Star Wars has a bright future even beyond this show. I feel like there is some opportunities from some cool stuff. Skeleton Crew comes out this December. I'm very curious with that show because it's got this like the story, but the directors they've hired, the directing talent's so strong. I'm like, there's got to be something.
I'm hoping it surprises me because I'm not really interested in.
I mean, dude, they got Lee Isaac Chung,
live action kids Star Wars show.
But dude, like, did you see the directors they got? Lee Isaac Chung, John Watts, the Daniels. Like, they got some pretty big directors working on it.
Funny about all of those. I'm not crazy about any of the Daniels. I wasn't crazy about Everything Everywhere All at Once. It was fine. What was the other one? John Watts. I hate his Spider-Man movies, so that doesn't help me whatsoever. And Lee Isaac Chung, I have not seen Twisters yet. So
he also directed Minari.
I heard good things about that.
Yeah. I mean, the directors they have, I'm like, oh, you got some interesting directors here. There's gotta be something to it, right?
I love Bryce Dallas, but then she directed that Lizzo and Jack Black episode, and it hurt.
That was the script. Script was the problem, not
it hurt.
Yeah, I know. It was the script, though. I mean, when Bryce has a good episode, I mean, she directed the Mando episode in Book of Boba Fett, and that was one of the best.
Great episodes. I until that episode, and I was like, oh no, even you can have a bad day. I was like, It was disappointing.
We'll see that.
But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's definitely, as usual with Star Wars, you've got your group of people that are freaking out over nothing and over hating and doing their same stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just a mid show. It's some weak writing, weak execution, interesting concepts and ideas, but not the greatest thing, not the worst thing. Star Wars will live, in my opinion. But yeah, thank you, RJ, for joining me. I appreciate having you here and stuff. And I'm sure you'll be around more and stuff.
I'm sure I'll float around in the ether.
Right. You're out there like Loki, just protecting the timeline.
Kind of just around. You may not always see me, but I'm there.
That's right, like Plagueis. But thanks for being here. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you have any thoughts or comments or anything on the Acolyte, let us know in the comment section below. Make sure and check out all of RJ's social medias, his YouTube channel, his Instagram, his X/Twitter. It's all going to be in the description below. Support him and his channel and what he's got going on. He's definitely got some hot takes on things too, just like the rest of us. So appreciate you being here. Appreciate you tuning in. Share the channel with somebody you know. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And we will see everybody next time. Peace out.
How could you love me then leave me? This shit, I still come out okay. I come out okay. Wait, came out okay. Although I've been plagued, yeah, I still come out okay. Still come out okay, yeah. It's too much, I can't trust again. Fall in love. I don't know if it's the drugs or my lens. I can't see where I'm going. Take my hand.